Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to Female Filmmakers Fuse with Alexa Polar and Robin Pabello, only on LA Talk Radio.
Thank you and welcome to Female Filmmakers Fuse Podcast. I'm your host, Alexa Polar. Real quick, the number to call in is 818-602-4929. That's 818-602-4929. You can catch us live on latalkradio.com or on their app. And you can also listen to the podcast later on all your favorite podcast streaming services like iTunes, Google Play, whatnot. I don't know where else we're at, but we're in a lot of places. I have been behind on posting stuff onto our YouTube. I'm going to get back on that, so I do apologize. Our show from last week will be on this week, and along with this show, we'll have it up on our YouTube page. I know that it's up there because of you, Robert.
Yep, I made a little mixing and fixed some audio stuff and just, did my normal.
Look good. So as you can hear, this is sort of part 2 of 3. Because the next time we'll have Ryan come back on and we'll cover all the bases on the Ronnie Chasen project.
All the developments.
All the stuff, get back into that because we were cut off short. We weren't, but... We have so much to talk about that
You okay?
My phone fell.
So we have Diana and Robert back today. Thank you for coming back. Let me have you each introduce yourselves again. Diana, we'll start with you.
Okay, my name is Diana Maiocco. I'm a producer, and I'm originally from New York. I worked in advertising, TV advertising, before I moved to LA and became involved in producing.
Awesome, thank you.
My name is Robert. A lot of people call me Bobby.
I do.
Yes, feel free to call me Robert, Bobby, whatever you want. I am your friend. I'm an actor, a singer, actor, dancer, primarily an actor. But I have recently got into composing, which has been very, very fun. And also a little bit producing myself and I guess directing. I direct completely freelance, but primarily an actor. It's a lot of fun. So it's where the passion's at.
Awesome. And I also, just in case anyone that is not aware of this, I did have you, you were at our film festival this past year, and you were, I forget the word.
The moderator?
The moderator,
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. Here to
Hello,
help.
Coffee, where are you? And you did great, and obviously I love having you on the show because you're a huge supporter of women and them being in the field of this very difficult entertainment field industry and equality and whatnot, and you have your reasons, and that's what's amazing.
I was raised by very strong women. I had the traditional Midwest growing up, but the women I was surrounded by, I guess they were the inspiration for why I put women in scripts as like the title character, because I don't want this to sound bad, but like you see I do a lot of like the horror movies or like the thrillers and even drama pieces, and you see so much like the man is the one that comes in and saves the woman, or the man is the one that's like in the power. I'm like, no, let's turn it completely around. What if in this horror element it's the woman instead? It's not like the woman's like, oh, help me, I need help. No, she's like, I'm gonna be the one to mess everything up.
Right.
And it's kind of cool to turn that around and put them as that central character because it gives a whole different insight.
Yeah.
Not saying the women in my life were horrific or in any way, but just putting them in central parts. just Alexa and Diana. They scare me to death. But no, I feel like that's why is when you're raised and you're around such strong women, you want to see them in the forefront, because they don't get the representation that they should have.
No, that's what's amazing. That's, I think, part of the reason why we mesh so well and why you're on this show. I do want to touch on a real quick topic before we get started on all the amazing things we're going to be discussing. Oscars. What's going on with the Oscars? I mean, I'm glad that they changed their mind, and I think it was mainly because of peer pressure, but removing cinematography and editing.
Oh, absolutely not.
That what makes a film.
I didn't understand what the reason behind that was. Let's have those awards done during the commercial breaks.
I think they could easily cut it down to 2 hours by just present. There's no reason to do skits.
That's true.
And commentary in between. Just have engaging presenters and present all the awards so everyone could,
I think they're so focused on their ratings, and I think that's the reason why. And a lot of times, like, people watch, and I'm speaking for myself, but and others that I know personally, that they watch because they want to be inspired by the speeches. And so when you cut those off as well, I mean, we should respect the time as well. Yes. Like I'm gonna get an Oscar, but if I were to get an Oscar,
I nominate you.
Thank you. And I won just like that. No, but if I were to get one, I would respect the timing, and I'm not going to go overboard. But I would hope. I mean, who doesn't practice their fake Oscar speeches in the showers or in their rooms or whatever, in their dreams or whatever. But you already know what you want to say that's going to inspire others. That
Yeah, and I had a theory, and I know a lot of times people, especially like if you look at who's watching the Oscars, and not just the people in Los Angeles or New York or like Chicago or cities where entertainment is really popular, but a lot of people will watch it because, oh, my favorite actor is going to be on the Oscars. You want to see the actors. You want to see the actors. And if that's part of the reason why, it's kind of a shame, because those actors would not look the way they do without proper cinematography or without proper editing. One of the earliest things I learned out here was, if you're going to be nice to anybody, be nice to your sound people, be nice to your editors, everybody, because they are responsible for making you look good.
Yes,
and not that,
especially the cinematographer.
Yeah, so
if you're and the makeup, person,
and that's not to say like
it's
be
a whole
nice
team,
to them.
yeah. Really.
Yeah, that's not to say be nice to them to bribe them, but it's just a way to showing respect to the people that have their job. Same thing with when you go into theater, which is where I started. You had people that loved theater, but they loved everything behind the scenes. And by taking those things out of shows like the Oscars, it's kind of sending a message that, oh, you're not as important.
Right.
But they are, if just as more, if not more. I'm just up there to say my lines, deliver it, but how it's visualized says a lot.
Well, it's fundamental. Cinematography, you can't have a film without cinematography. That's it.
Like
editing and cinematography, I mean, makeup as well, but editing and cinematography, I think, is essential. And to cut those off, and I'm glad that they took that back and said, no, we're going to have it back on. And I feel that was just more by popular demand and
but the fact that
pressure.
I had to get to that point,
right?
It's like, really, guys, like just
they don't have a host. What time?
Yeah, like, just as like an example, let's say, because I just finished up with Glow, and that's an aesthetic of like the 1980s. If you don't have a proper cinematographer that knows how to capture that moment in time, or shooting it in a certain way, or using the right filters, using the right this, then you're not even if you're up there acting, people won't believe you, because they're not visually seeing what they should think they're seing, like the neon lights and this and lighting.
Editing takes into place, because the editing in the 80s were far different than they are now.
Oh,
yeah, they were done on moviolas then. Now it's all digital.
Yeah. So it's just like a lot of that, and to just disregard that, I think it was a slap in the face and just totally disrespectful towards that title, that career, those people that work hard, and to get that from the Academy, I was blown away by that.
Well, and then you look at all the years the Oscars have been running, like, why all of a sudden do you want to cut it? Like, what are you planning on putting something else new in? I know they changed with like the best film category and best. Like, it's like, this is the Academy. Their job and what they pride themselves in, what they speak about so much, is rewarding the excellence of film. And you want to say it's like, oh, we're the Academy, we're gonna do this, or we're gonna cut this. You're really?
Yeah.
You look less prestigious in my eyes because you're cutting the things that are what make film prestigious.
I don't think this is so far, it hasn't been proven to be a good year for the Oscars. I mean,
no, and I hope it improves. But
I'm not referring to the films. I'm just referring to what's going on with the hosting and the decisions that make. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but obviously they need to revamp that, and lessons learned, I hope, better next year.
Yep.
So, okay, let's move on now. I just wanted to get that out there because I was blown away by that, and I'm glad that it literally. I saw, what was it, 2 days ago, that they made the announcement, that okay, we'll include it. Just like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, why do you want to, like, that makes of all the categories, like, no.
Oh.
Like, I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm glad they changed their mind.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get on with our project.
Yes.
Let's get to the point.
Yes, let's get on to. So we have a couple of projects to discuss, right?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about Grace first?
Yeah, By the Grace of God. This is a movie actually that Bobby wrote here, and Ryan is directing it.
Okay.
And I came in with a good friend of mine, Jan Neisen, to help fund it. So, and my role as a producer, as when I moved out here, is I found that it helps to have some disposable income to help fund movies.
Nice.
And you get involved in the creative process too.
Right.
And, when I worked in New York, I was always interested in television, reading scripts, looking for sponsorships, product placement. And then when I did the website for the fan site for the TV show Moonlighting, I got, when I interviewed everyone, I saw what went into making a show, making a series. And anyway, so when I moved out here, I was lucky enough to meet Ryan, and I liked his idea. So my first foray in producing was with Ryan and Shattered Hopes, the Amityville murders. So so we worked well together, and I met Bobby, and then he had this project, and I decided to come in with some money, as well as my friend Jan, and we're producing this.
That's awesome. Now, what? Because a lot of people always ask this and never get the real answer. And now that I have you here, and you mentioned that, what is it that you look for when it comes to having that desire to finance something or assist in financing something?
The story. If it's like, for instance, when I met Ryan, he was telling me about the Amityville horror and the hoax that it was, and actually there's a murder behind it. And I thought, well, that story's never been told. So I wanted to produce it with him. I was expressed interest in it, and he asked me if he wanted to get involved, and I said sure. And so we decided to finance it ourselves. At first, we thought about going after investors, but then we thought, let's just do it ourselves so we have more control, creative control. So I look for the story, and I also look for who I'm working with, because they have to be reliable.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of BS in
lot.
this town. People have
Why
all these
she chose me, I
projects.
have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, when I first came out here, I met a lot of supposed filmmakers, and they talk a lot of hoo-ha.
Yeah.
But I read Ryan's script after I met him. I read some of his scripts, and I liked the way he wrote. It was kind of cinematic, and so anyway, when he told me about Shattered Hopes, I decided to become involved in it. But again, it has to do with the script and the people I'm working with, ideally, and people are not going to screw me over.
Right, and that's important because
especially when it comes to money.
No, exactly. That's something that I've always said it's a key component. It's a business, and the project that you're dealing with is a product. And so if you don't treat it as such and have that respect, then you're not respecting the people that are entrusting you with it. So I always get nervous when I'm dealing with a project and it's someone else's money, because it's a lot for someone that is either I write and direct. So if I'm directing a project, it's so much pressure, and that's why a lot of people don't understand this. And I feel it's important to address. It's so much pressure because you have to make sure that your cast and crew are happy and safe, and that they're wanting to be there. Okay, and then most importantly, that you're doing a project that there's going to be a return on the fund investment, right? So because you want to make sure that you can have that sort of rapport and relationship with whomever invested into your project,
right.
Because it's not just like, thanks for the money, bye uncle, because that's not what it is, because not everyone has a rich uncle, right? I'm just saying, because there are some filmmakers that are lucky, that have money from family members and whatnot, and it's a very rare few that I've come across where they're talented on top of that. But I see it different because they don't have I don't know, it feels like there's something missing because it was so easy for them. I've come across a couple of super talented filmmakers, and the money is not an issue for them, and then they just do it because it's fun. So it's not even them really trying or having a real desire, and it's unfortunate because they have this talent, and you don't even see them putting it fully putting their effort into it, because it's kind of like, well, I had the money to play with, so it's different for someone that doesn't. And then there's also the ones that don't have it and then don't respect where it came from. And sometimes I'll hear from people saying, oh, you're just a money person, like there's no respect in that. I mean, how do you think movies get made? Right.
They need money, they need financing. If you're lucky, you have a network or studio behind you. But if you don't, have the respect of the person's investing their money in your project.
Right.
Well, and that's why we're doing, me and Dan as well, a movie To the Bitter End. And literally, I I tried doing the Indiegogo, the Kickstarter, the GoFundMe, and
I suck at that.
I
suck at it so
grace
hard.
of God, we did really well with. And this one, I was thinking maybe I was blind to it. I'm like, you know what, we're gonna do just as good as we did the first time. This one's a feeture. It's not a short. I think like $110. I'm like, okay, well, I have $110 to make a feature. How do I do this? And I'm like, you know what? There's so much advancements being made for iPhones, and with that, I'm like, okay, well, I looked on with the different apps, and they have an app called Filmic, which is anybody that's listening, I recommend you buy it because it literally turns. If you set your settings on your iPhone to a 4K 60 frame per second, it literally changes it to like a Canon DSLR. You can change the ISOs, you can change the apertures, and change everything, and it was amazing. So we actually ended up using that to film. And locations that we've found so far, I've had friends give me their locations. We've also filmed at a cemetery up in the valley, which was awesome. It was kind of run and go, but they said it was a company out of Houston actually, and since they're not in LA, they're like, oh, we don't know the law. Go ahead. You got the permission. We're good to go.
Nice.
So we were able to save money with that. And literally, there's always a way to make it. And so when I brought in Diana, I know that she also wanted to be creative. I'm like, well, I'll have you on as our executive producer. And the money really isn't the issue right now. It's just let's have another person on that gives me that insight. And especially having a movie like Bitter End, where I think I have one character, James, who plays my brother. My character's Billy. We're the only two men in the entire film. Everything else is led by women. I'm like, and I wanted to also have not just my perspective, but a female perspective as well on like, how would this work? How do you like this? Like, even when it comes down to like the color choices or the visual, like
wardrobe.
Yeah, yes.
Wardrobe, that's how
we were filming the therapist scenes, and I'm like, Diana, what do you think of this? She's like, no, not with that. I'm like, okay, that's why I have you. Thank you. Like those little inputs, they're so valuable. Yeah, so valuable, and those are things that honestly, not to sound like a cliche, but money can't buy that.
All right.
Like, when you have somebody that you trust, that you enjoy working with, that you bring them onto your projects, you know, and having that female perspective is very useful for me,
right?
Because I couldn't do what I do without that.
Right. No, that's a good point. That's an excellent point. Because it's a respect all across the board, and I think some people, and not that I'm speaking out of like I know who exactly to pinpoint who I'm talking about. No, I'm just saying in general, because we've all come across it. There's some people that exist that just don't care, or have that respect. So it's all about them and how far they can get. And unfortunately, and I get it because networking is huge. Like. That's how you know who you're going to work with again, or hope to work with again, or hope that they call you to, collaborate or whatnot. And if you treat people if you lack that respect, I highly doubt you're going to get that call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of it too is where I grew up in Michigan, actually, a little plug, Flint, Michigan, which still does not have clean water. I just need to say that, first and foremost. I still have friends that would bathe her son in bottles of water, but we're not talking really about that today. It every time I say where I'm from, I can't get it out of my mind.
No, I know.
But the way that you're raised is very much about like helping your fellow man, like helping out your neighbors, helping out people, and just having that care. And I understand, like in a city, not just Los Angeles, but also all the major cities where people are really trying to get ahead. Sometimes we lose sight of helping each other, or we lose sight of everybody else around us, and we're just so focused on furthering what we need that it also translates into film where you have those people that are just have their self-interests out there, and I don't want to fault them for it. I think that people just very easily lose their way,
right?
But based on where I'm from, I don't think I could ever do that. So I understand totally where you're coming from. I've experienced it in so many different ways, and don't want to say made a lot of mistakes. I've learned a lot of lessons. I think that's the better way to word that. But it's definitely something that is very prevalent, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But eventually you find those people that you do want to work with. Like I found Diana, I found Ryan, I found you. Like you make. Literally, Alexa, when you have a project, it is so easy to work on because I don't feel like, oh, okay, I got to make sure I have this. And then you got all these like internalized fears of like, if I don't do this, I'm never going to work with her again. It's just going to hate me. I'm going to be blacklisted. I'm going to go home and I'm going to be poor. Like, no, I never have any of those. Like you make it so easy, and those are the people that you need to find.
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you for being that. And same with Diana. It's like, it's very easy. It's very low key. With Ryan, he's like, well, great. Okay, next one. We'll do a couple takes. Cool. We're good to go.
Yeah.
If he's like, if I need anything from you, I will let you know. He's like, but you're an actor. You know what you're doing. Don't feel like, I just want you to feel comfortable and just do the role. I'm like, thank you.
No, with people that you meet, especially if they're new or maybe you've known them for a little bit, do you ever ask, because this is something I always try to do, because we're all wearing multiple hats, because a lot of times we're trying just to get in or establish as best as we can. And so we tend to forget that ourselves. So for example, like I say, I write and direct. So I mainly write and sometimes direct, just to clarify. So I write more than I direct. And that's because that's how I like it personally. If I can direct more, that would be great, but that's whatever. You know, I sometimes edit. That's not something I do, so I don't disclose that. I sometimes AD for other people, and I do that just so I can network. So I don't fully disclose that either. So if someone were to meet me, if I'm ADing, their assumption is I'm the AD, right? So when I meet people on set, I always ask them, what is it that you want to do? And sometimes it throws them off, you know, because I don't feel like they get that a lot, because if I'm meeting someone and it meshes well, I want to know what they want to do, because I don't want to stick them in a hole, because that's how I met them. So if I met this person and he was a gaffer, and then it turns out he doesn't want to be a gaffer, he wants to do something else. If I never ask, then every time I hire him or think of him or her, then I'm always going to think of that person as the gaffer. You know, so I don't want to pinhole someone. Sometimes that's what they want to do. Like, oh, I love doing this. And I'm like, oh, awesome. Okay, I'm going to write that down. And sometimes I get people on set that say, my goal is to direct. And so I end up hiring them as my AD, you know, instead of being the PA or whatnot, you know, or the swing, or because where they're at is not going to really benefit them as a director. So I don't know if that's something you guys come across or deal with or ask.
Yeah, I mean, I work with, you know, I have a day job, and I work with a lot of actors, and so I'm always asking them, you know, what they're doing, or I'll keep them in mind when we have casting coming up. And I also have friends in the business. I have another friend who will help, you know, and helped invest in his project. So, yeah, I'm always asking when I realize they're in the business.
I feel like, because especially these past couple of years, I've done a lot of different things. So I'm working on composing for this. So people will ask, "Oh, are you out here to be a composer?" I think it's a very general statement thing people ask, not only as an icebreaker, because it's an easy way to get to know somebody based on what they're already doing. But it also can be confusing when you do look, like if you were to look at my IMDb and you see all the tags, like credits for producing, for directing, for writing, for acting, for music. I'm like, it might be a little confusing. What are you actually trying to do? Where it's like, I'm just trying to make myself sustainable in Los Angeles. But no, I've asked the same thing, just because people do wear so many different hats that sometimes they could be primarily an actor, but then they find themselves in a writing gig and they really like writing, and they now are changing their focus to writing, but you wouldn't know that because they have a ton of acting credits. So I think, I mean, I've asked the question, I get asked the question a lot. Still, for me, primarily it's acting. But like, again, I can't release details, but we just filmed Glow, the episode 9 this past Thursday and Friday. I'm using a skill, trying to really go around the bush here. I'm using a skill that I'm good at, but it can make people think that I'm not maybe an actor. I'm just doing this.
Gotcha.
And so they're like, "Oh, so you're out here for this?" I'm like, "Well, actually, I'm an actor first and foremost. That's how I got, you know, the audition, and I got, you know, the booking." And like, "Oh, okay, cool." Just because when you do something that's not traditionally just acting, people will always probably be like, "Oh, what are you out here for?" Maybe the same thing going back to the Oscars. It's like everything's acting. It's acting, and there's so many other categories that are just as important that people, when you're not doing that, like, "Oh, what are you out here to do?" It's like, I can understand it, but I get asked the question a lot, and it's always fun to, you know, talk, because then you start thinking, wow, okay, what if I did just do this? What if I was just this? So I think it's a fair question I think we all get asked.
Yeah, and then that's why it kind of circles back to the whole respect. Because I was on set, I was directing once, and I had someone on set helping out, and there was a certain shot that I wanted to capture, and this person who revealed to me wanted to be a director as well, or also directs. So I already knew that. So I felt, okay, so that person should respect what I'm doing here, and vice versa. Well, I was describing a shot that I wanted to get, and this person laughed and kind of was like, that's so silly, so stupid. Don't do that shot. And I sat there for a minute. I did, and it sucks because I didn't end up doing it because this person caused other crew members to laugh as well. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'm an amateur and I'm not going to do that shot, even though they never questioned why I wanted to get that shot that went with what I was filming. That didn't matter to them. They thought it was amateurish that I wanted to get that shot. And later that day, I kicked myself because I wish I had said something because I didn't. But I wish I did because I was thinking, this is coming from someone that wants to direct. If this person's on set and is directing, how would he or she, because I don't want to say who it is, take that if the tables were turned? If someone were to laugh at this person and say, why would you do that? Don't do that.
Well, I mean, you have the greats. Like, look at Alfred Hitchcock, and he was mocked for Psycho. Like, first, like, you really want to make this? Are you kidding me?
Right.
And look how well that did.
But that's what I mean. Like
I think it comes to experience too. You know, as you direct more and you find your vision and confidence
and that's the thing. I lacked it at that moment, and I kicked myself because I didn't get the shot because I felt like, okay, because a lot of the people I was working with work more than I do. So I felt maybe I shouldn't do it. And I kind of felt cornered.
A little intimidated.
I did, and it sucked. You know, and I don't know if it was because I was female, because it could have been that could have been a factor of it. There was females on set as well, so I'm not sure. We have a call, one sec.
Well, at least you learned from that experience.
Sure. Caller, you're on the air. Can I get your name and where you're calling from?
Hi, this is Ashe Warren calling from
Ash.
Hello.
Morning, Ashe.
Oh, hello. I just tuned in and I was listening to y'all talk about directing, and I just wondered if maybe, you know, Bobby, a.k.a. Robert Michael, had brought up how he's directing and producing To the Bitter End.
Yeah, so we actually were talking about it a little bit. Diana is the executive producer. Anybody that is listening now at this point.
Hey, Ashe.
Yeah, so we're directing that. I'm directing that. I'm also Billy. Ashe actually is playing Farah, Billy's girlfriend, and she's one of the leads in the production. It's pilot season, so it gets a little bit busy, but we're hoping to get everything finished by March, because in March we have another project coming up for Reels Network, which we can't really release yet. It's another one of Ryan's projects, actually, but we're trying to get everything done kind of on a timeline so that we're not, like, jumping between this and this and this, and inevitably things get messy.
So speaking of networking, I met Ashe through you, Bobby, and we worked together. And so how often have you worked with Ashe, and how much do you recommend her? Because I would recommend her nonstop. Ashe, you're amazing.
So they always say you meet the people that you want to work with in the craziest ways. Right. So I was
in the bathroom.
Well, may as well have been. I mean, I'm not saying I advocate just going into the women's bathroom, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, you can meet people in strange places. I was stage managing a play that she also produced, and anytime I go into something, and I always have open ears and an open mind and open eyes, because you never know who you're going to meet. Always be prepared for the unexpected. And I saw her, and she knew what she was doing. She seemed very self-confident. And I'm like, I think this girl would be really, really good. And so I actually pulled her aside and I'm like, so I have, a project, and we're looking for this, certain character. It's for Ronnie Chasen, actually. Again, I don't want to release the name of the character, but it's on IMDb if you're really curious. But on the air, I don't necessarily want to. I don't really want to air it too publicly. I'm trying to keep some things under wraps. And I'm like, I would love for you to read for it, because we're still trying to figure out this character, because there was somebody that was attached, and she was somebody very difficult to work with. And so we decided it was best to go another route. And so I had her do, her self-tape, and she booked it, and then she's been, we're just kind of waiting for that to cycle back. And then since then, I'm like, hey, we also have this project. She's actually in Bitter End as the newscaster, as like one of our voiceover roles. And then I got her into By the Grace of God. Sorry, there's so many projects. She's in all of them.
Together, Bobby.
Right? Well, she's in pretty much all of them. That's why it gets blurry, and that's because when you meet those people you really want to work with, that you can tell have a passion. Like, she has music that she does, and that takes a lot of work. I understand that because I'm a composer. composer and I also write music, and just writing one song takes forever.
Right.
And when you're trying to actively release your music and you're writing music and you're doing film and you're producing a play, that's someone that I can see really wants it.
Right.
And when you can tell, there's some people that say, oh, I really want to be an actor, I really want to be this, but then they don't do anything about it. It's like, I want to see that fight. I want to see the hunger for it.
Right.
And she has that.
So Ashe, how long have you known Bobby? Because this sounds fairly recent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been
recent.
working with Robert Michael since August, actually, when
August
started doing the
2018?
July.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
July,
The reason why
something like that.
The reason why I'm saying this is because I met you through Robert Michael.
It's so weird.
I
know.
And what was it?
Union rules. Union things.
What was it? October, November? Was it for the film
Yes.
festival? Okay. So now that I've met you since then, that wasn't too long ago. That was fairly recent. And I feel like I've known you forever. And I feel like we meshed that well. And it's weird because I'm just now learning this, that you two have known each other that long, which isn't that long.
Yeah.
And you guys,
No.
I've seen you two. I feel like you guys known each other for years.
Well, I think when you have those people that you work well with, sometimes when it's someone that there's a little bit of animosity, it takes a little bit to warm up to them, and then it's like you don't really talk that often. You talk, here and there, and it's fine. When it's people that you genuinely enjoy working with, and you click right off the bat, it's like you've been friends forever.
Yeah.
It's like an instantaneous thing. Like even me and Ryan, first day filming, then we just started talking all the time because we just worked well together. I think it just kind of comes naturally. But with her, it's just when I see somebody, going back to a point I made a couple minutes ago, when somebody really has that fight and that drive to make it and really wants it, and I know that I have, potentially, I can't always guarantee anything, but I have the potential to help them. And I want to do that because I had somebody, and I told Ryan this. Ryan gave me my first ever major network job, and it was a lead, and it was awesome. Alexa actually gave me my first ever union job, so thank you, Alexa, for that. And Speak Easy to me now on Amazon. But I like to give that
plug. Get that plug.
always. But no, I like to do the same for other people because if someone went above and beyond and saw something in me, knowing how hard it is to make it in this industry, and then when I see someone that I think could, just use an extra push too, because they deserve it and they earn it and they're great and they're talented, they're just waiting for those couple people that can really get them something and get a name. I want to do that because I feel like it was given to me, and I was very fortunate to get that, and now I'm
want to give
very
back.
Paying it back.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of progression, especially this year with my own career, and I would not be there without these people.
Right.
So why would I not then say, oh, I have these opportunities, and you've paid your dues, you really want it, let me give it to you now.
Right.
And so then we just started working together. We started, thinking about different ideas. I'm like, what, I'm making this film. You're great. Let's put you in this. And
Right.
oh, I need this. I'll put you in this. And so it just started, just naturally happening. And now, pretty much, I'll probably keep working with her for a long time. Sorry, Ashe. You have to deal with me for a long time.
You heard that? This is you can't break this contract. This for what happened? There we go.
No, we're
Okay.
back.
That was
we're back
weird.
on.
We're back. You can't. I guess you can break the verbal contract. I don't know why.
Well, in this business, it's all about respect and as well as loyalty.
Yeah.
And hopefully, unfortunately, money gets involved. When people get greedy, then you see their true colors.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel I've been lucky working with a great group of people that I trust and consider my friends.
Yeah.
And
I always feel bad too because there are times when you make projects and you being a director and as a writer as well. There's always things that will delay a project. Or
Right.
there's things that happen that you don't want it to happen, but we're facing that on a couple of things right now, just with different people. And you want to assure the people that do put in the money or that are producing or are also attached, like, it's going to happen.
Right.
It's
Just be
not,
patient.
Exactly. Because me being like creating Bitter End or creating Grace of God with Ryan, like there are people that gave money and I'm like, we are done. We're just waiting for this to get back and then the 1080p version to be sent and then we got to submit to festivals and then it could be months until you hear back from your first one and then that's
Right.
going to get released and then the festival's not for another 6 months.
Right.
So having the people around like Diana was saying, and having that loyalty is important, because then they know, okay, it's going to happen. Things just take time. And you have the people that you sign on that are instant, like they want the instant gratification of, why isn't it happening now? I want it now. I need it now. And then they just leave. It's like, you don't understand the process.
Right.
Because there's even movies like, look at Fences, which took 7 years to make.
Yeah.
They started it 7 years ago.
Right?
Like, things take so long. So I'm like, if it takes about a year, that's pretty normal, I think. Unless you have $50 million sitting there where you could just easily just say, okay, we're going to block out 2 weeks of time. No, you have people's schedules. They're also filming this. They're doing this. They're going and doing this. Like, different projects. It gets a little tricky.
I think if you want to break into this business, I think independent filmmaking is the way to go. You don't need as much money nowadays. You can just film on your phone. Because phones become so sophisticated.
We're using Facebook Live right now on my iPhone, and it looks great.
So it's not even the money. So if you're lucky, I'm just to say that if you're lucky enough to meet the right people and right talented people, committed people, and then with all the web streaming that we have now, people are not even going to movies anymore. They're watching shows and movies on their phones. Right. It's just movie making has changed. Movie going has changed.
Right. That's true.
What were you saying, Ash?
Yes, go ahead, Ash. Sorry.
I was just saying, because I'm sorry. I was just saying, I'm so thankful and blessed to work with all of you, and that's also why I called in, because I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh, by the way,
working with
Ash,
everyone that's talking right now, and
you're fired.
It's such an honor.
I'm kidding.
Stop it.
This
is such an stop it. This is such an honor to work with everyone, and I was going to get off the phone because I wanted to let the interview go, but I just hope that we're still getting elevator pitch missions.
Oh, we are. We
coming up, right?
That's true, and I have to be on top of that too. I have some, and I'm going to send some to you, and we'll do an update on the website and whatnot. But I've been a little out of it for personal family reasons, but I am still there. And we're still accepting submissions. So
could you? I'm curious about that. Like, not obviously for me. I think it's such a cool idea.
So it's a contest where people send their scripts, short scripts. We pick the top 6, and then the top 6 that get picked go in the elevator with Ashe. I say that like laughing. I don't know why, but they go in the elevator with Ashe.
I know.
Sounds icky.
It's one of those movies. Okay, guys.
But it's a learning experience. So what they have to do is literally they have 50 seconds to pitch. To do an elevator pitch of their short, and so we film that, and then the top 6 that we film the elevator pitch, we put it on. I don't know where, we're still working on the platform. We're working on the kinks, but it's going to be there, and then people vote, and the top 3 then do an actual sit down pitch, like generally how this industry works. So you'll sit down in an office and do an actual longer pitch and describe it better and whatnot, and whatever you have to show and whatnot. And then from there, the top 3 get another vote, and the one that wins, then that project will be produced.
That's cool.
And then we'll film it the whole time, like the BT. It's kind of like Project Greenlight, but a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, because I saw you guys had a little trailer put together, and that was so cool and very well done. And I'm like, I wish more people did those kinds of things.
Right.
So yeah, if you're listening, do that, because I want to watch a cool short film too.
I think it's great.
We're going to show the auditioning process,
everything.
The casting process,
everything,
all of it. So it's such an exciting avenue, and that's why I was like, can we just plug that for a quick second?
Yeah, cool? I agree. It is, and it's something that I really want to push more, because more people need to be aware of it, because I think it's also an educational thing. So I would encourage others to watch it, because like Ashe said, we're going to be capturing everything from pitch to post, and then afterwards is going to be premiering at next year's Female Filmmakers Fuse Festival. So that's where it's going to premiere. Yeah. But you're going to get the whole taste of it, from how this person wrote it. We'll get a little bit behind from that, but they're going to come pitch it real quick, 50 seconds to pitch, because sometimes that's all you have.
Yeah.
A lot of times those investors...
And you get to be in an elevator.
Well, I mean, you've heard of people going to a studio and pitching, and somebody's on the way to a meeting, like, you have 30 seconds, go.
Right.
Like, and it's the weirdest place. Like, it could be in a waiting room. It could be you hear these stories, like people that make it in Hollywood.
Someone literally pitched Fast and Furious in an elevator. It was literally in an elevator, and he said it was what is that surf movie?
Point Break.
Point Break. He said Point Break on wheels.
Point Break.
That's what he said. He was like Point Break on wheels. And that's all this person said, and that's what all it took.
And by the way, that was directed by Catherine Bigelow, Point Break.
Uh-huh.
I think back then,
Yeah.
she was married to James Cameron at the time, but back then everyone was amazed that a woman directed Point Break.
Yeah. I was just happy that
I'm
she
gonna
won that
let
Oscar
you
that
all
one
go.
time over
I
him.
apologize, Diana. I'm going to let you all go.
Thank
but
you.
Thank you so much for taking my call. I appreciate it.
I didn't want to, but I had to. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks, Ash.
I'm so sorry. I was like, I'm going to let you go. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. She's lovely.
She is. Okay. So back to your projects.
I'm actually curious because I haven't been able to see it yet. Can you tell me a little bit about Love Gilda? Like,
Yes.
because I know she was on SNL. She was, SNL.
She was the first
She was
person
amazing.
hired on SNL.
Yeah, I wish I knew more. Gilda Radner, right?
Gilda Radner, yes.
Radner.
Radner,
I should know this.
R-A-D-N-E-R.
I'm so sorry.
Well, you were born after.
But still, she's like one of the greats, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, my good friend James Taminia is a producer on the movie, and the movie was being directed by Lisa D'Appolito, who actually volunteered at the Gilda's Club in New York City, which is a cancer support center. So she had the idea of doing a movie on Gilda, and the executive producer, one of the executive producers is Meryl Goldsmith, who I understand is a family friend. Anyway, Gilda Radner, you got Lisa directing, Meryl being one of the executive producer, and then my friend James. I mean, you have the women involved there. And anyway, so my friend James was telling me about the movie, and I thought, I'd love to be involved in this. How can I be involved? And they were looking for some investments, and so I signed on as one of their investors, donated. Donated through Women. It was the New York Women in Television and Film was doing the corporate sponsoring.
Nice.
So that's how I got involved in that, and having an associate producer credit. So. Again, I look for projects that are worthwhile, and it was about Gilda Radner, who I loved. I grew up watching. I'm a little older than you guys, so I did. I was a fan of Gilda Radner.
Not that old. My mom would kill me if I didn't say that.
No, I loved SNL, and she was one of my favorite. I didn't watch it obviously, but later with the reruns and whatnot, and I became such a fan of SNL because of her. And I feel like there's her story. I don't know it fully, but I know it was pretty tragic, right?
Right. She was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and she passed away. I believe it was in 1980. It was in 89, I believe. But she was the first cast member, and she was like the breakout star. And her comedy was very physical. To me, it reminds me of a combination of Lucille Ball and Carol Burnett.
Right. Okay. Yes. Exactly.
And she wasn't vain either. In her, some of the characters she came up with, like Rosanna Dana, wouldn't say it was exactly very feminine, But she was wonderful. So I mean, that was a worthwhile project that I wanted to get involved in, and it premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival in April of 2018, and that was a thrill. I attended that festival, and then there was a reception at Tavern on the Green, which was kind of neat because all the times I've been to Tavern on the Green was when I went to network presentations when I was in advertising. So it was kind of cool to go to reception for something I was involved in.
Right.
So it was kind of neat.
Nice.
Anyway, so and then another project that I invested money in is a documentary on Montgomery Clift, who was probably like the first method actor. He influenced Marlon Brando and James Dean. So his nephew. Created this documentary. They were doing it through GoFundMe.
Okay.
So I was one of many sponsors who donated toward it. And that movie, that's playing the festival circuit now. And it premiered in LA Film Festival in September 2018. And it's going to play. It played in New York. It's in Italy now.
Oh, nice.
And it's going to be in Australia. So I'm hoping that they'll be able to get maybe broadcast rights for that. So again, I was growing up, I was a big fan of the old movies. I grew up on the old movies, watching the old movies from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and as a teenager, especially, I was into the old movies. And there was a book written about him, about Montgomery Clift, and that was like a bestseller, and it was kind of definitive biography. But then when you see the documentary, you'll see sometimes biographies are not really telling the truth.
Right.
So
that's or they're leaving
leaving things,
certain things out,
or just exaggerating something to make it more, dramatic.
Right.
What a name! I know. The story's fascinating too. I don't want to take away from that. I'm just like, I wish my name was Montgomery Clift.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
Like that is such an old Hollywood aesthetic.
Yeah.
It's. Oh, I love that. Maybe I'm gonna change my name. You don't gotta call me Bobby anymore, guys. You can. My name's Montgomery Clift. Monty. Yes. Yes, Monty.
So anyway, those are some other films that I've been involved in outside of working with Bobby and Ryan.
Nice.
And I'm always looking for something that that interests me.
Right.
That maybe
appeals to you
appeals to me, and also a story that has never been told also.
Yeah, in some of the, if I can now, I kind of wanted to go into a little bit more with Grace of God, because first and foremost, a lot of people think, oh, it's like a religious movie. It's really not. It couldn't be furthest from it. Essentially, Grace of God, it's going to be going into festivals this fall. We finished editing. Everything is done. We were trying to get a specific actor for a voiceover role, and he had signed on, and then things got a little bit tough because he's very, very, very prominent actor. But he's got so many things going on, and we understand that. So thankfully, we have Ashe Warren, who just called in, playing the newscaster, and she's going to be brilliant, and we already recorded it, and it sounds great. That's going to be going to festivals this fall. Essentially, it's a psychological thriller. A woman, Grace, it's a play on reality. You see her in this house with her husband, and it's a dysfunctional family. And her husband, who's my character, his name's Daniel. It seems like he's just an arrogant person.
So based on a true story? No, I'm kidding.
Yes, completely based on true story with my wife. But no, it's a play on reality because you actually realize at the end that what you think you've been seeing the entire time is actually just a make-believe moment, and she suffered from a car accident. Her brain created this fake reality, and she thinks she's living in it, and you see all of these things happening to her that you think are sick and sadistic, almost that you'd see in like a Stephen King movie, like Misery.
Right.
Especially, that's probably the best example is Misery, or what's another good one? There was
Didn't you describe it as you described it as Black Swan and Misery?
Well, that was Bitter End. I love Misery. That's why I don't know why I find a lot of projects focusing on that, but Kathy Bates' character is like amazing in that. But no, this is like, there was a great Netflix movie with Stephen King that just came out, and it was about like a woman and her husband. They went to like this cabin, and then he had a heart attack, and she was like chained to a bed. It was crazy, but it's all like a play on reality. What you think is happening isn't quite really what's happening.
By the grace of God, right?
Yeah, and so it's like one of the lines is by the grace of God that you weren't killed. So that's kind of where we got that title from. And Alex Freem, she plays Grace. She's fantastic in that role. Absolutely fantastic. I could not have picked a better person to play that. And she's got a good little career going for her as well. And I wish her the best. And I hope that, things continue well for her. And then me and Diana are also doing To the Bitter End, which still centers around like a female character whose name is Kathy. She's played by Roz Stanley, who's also she's also in The Blackstone. And it's basically a brother who suffers from PTSD after losing his brother in the Iraq War. He starts to fall into a really bad depression, and he thinks he's being haunted by all of these paranormal events, that are feeding off of his depression. And you come to find out that actually it's his sister that is upset that when the brother died, he left all the inheritance money to him and nothing to her, that she's trying to create situations to make him paranoid, which is where all the paranormal activity comes from, and ends up taking his life. And I don't want to reveal too much on how that happens, and because that's part of the fun of watching the movie.
Right.
But essentially, it's such a psychological thriller that, or I should just say it's just psychological. Sorry, I should watch my syntax a little bit better. But it's something that I love to watch, and that's why with Bitter End it's like Black Swan meets Misery, because the psychological stuff when you're watching it, in so many Hollywood movies, especially horror movies now, you can already tell the ending. It's like, oh, I know how this is going to end. She's going to die first, and he's going to go, and he's going to cheat on her, and I wanted to do something where at the very end it's like, whoa,
Right.
Like you did not expect that to happen.
Right.
And because a lot of it you could follow and be like, oh, okay, I know what's going to happen. This makes sense. Like,
Right.
oh, he's being haunted. This thing's going to come at him. It's going to
Right.
make him crazy. And then he's going to cry or something's going to happen. And then it's like, whoa, you get this like,
Just kidding.
twist.
Yeah.
Just kidding. What you thought you saw the entire time is not the truth. And so all my projects I try to focus on with that.
That's cool.
And then if I can talk about one more, that's cool. It's a musical film
Okay.
that I'm in development for. It's called State of the Union, and it's pretty much how it sounds. I've all the music's already written. This is probably going to be in 2020 when we do this one, and it's not Republican, it's not Democratic, it's completely down the middle. It's a testament to where we are right now, and it takes place where it's a very, very politically charged time, and it's a modern day Romeo and Juliet where it's a Democratic household versus a Republican household. And they won't allow their daughter or their son from either family to be together, so they sneak out one day and like, we're gonna go on a date, we don't care, we're not gonna let them tell us no, and there's a mass shooting and the daughter is killed, and because she's killed, both families now realize, and they were able to find a way to be a Democratic and Republican and respect each other. Maybe we can do the same in the absence of, or in her death. So her death wasn't in vain. So it's a way of teaching people to come together. It's the title character is Sasha. The part I have an idea for already, but it's in 2020.
Okay.
It's got a while. But I'm hoping to also bring on a strong cast of females for that. So people that are listening, stay tuned, please. It's something that I'm excited about, and just another project in the horizon that I'm hoping to bring all the people that I like to work with back and work with me again.
Awesome. That sounds great. And do you have anything else for you, Diana, in 2020, 2021?
25.
No, not yet. I mean, pretty much the latest project I'm working on right now is with Bobby to the Bitter End. I also have a short that's playing festivals also with my friend James Taminia. It's an Italian-American venture.
Oh, nice.
And actually the title's called Rain, and it's all women actually in the cast. It's a 10-minute short that's been playing the festivals.
Nice.
So I'm just looking to work with people I know and maybe making new connections. And
I feel that you and I are connecting, Diana.
Yes.
Oh, I love this moment.
Yeah, I know. It has to, has to do all with
a lot
meeting
of
and connecting
aspects of it,
and feeling like you can work together. You got a good story to tell.
And that's something that I want everyone to just be aware of.
I think everybody has to be mindful of who they meet, because when I moved out here, I met actors and actresses, and there was an instance where some actors, they just didn't follow through, and so and then you're not going to work with them again. Yeah. So just be mindful of your connections and try to be honest if you can't turn up for a job. And
I can't say respect more.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really what
I was amazed along those same lines. I work with a company out of New York, RWS and Associates, and they're fantastic. And they don't do a lot of work in California, but I got a call by a guy, Franklin, who does casting for them. And he's like, Bobby, you're in California, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, Los Angeles? I'm like, yeah. It's like, well, it's a good paid job, like a very well paid job. It's like, I booked some actresses for this and some actors. He's like, and they just completely fell through. Do you know anybody? And I'm like thinking, well, this is a paid job, right? Yeah. Like, and there's so many people that are just itching even to do something pro bono, or just to be cast in something, so they're actively working and keeping
take it serious.
Exactly. It's like, and you're getting money too.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, how could you say no?
Don't flake.
It's amazing how that happens. So it's important to find those people that are loyal and that you want to keep working with, because you can trust them.
Absolutely. So we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you for the part 2, and I'm glad we were able to get more in depth with your projects, both of your projects, and learning a lot as well. I know you don't. There's no websites, nothing. Just you have your Instagram. I know you're on Facebook. That's a little different. Do you have anything to share where people can reach you if you want to be reached, as far as websites or social media?
Yeah. I have a Facebook page. Most of the projects that I'll post about, my Facebook page itself is private, but all my public posts that are available to anybody, you can, by looking up my name, you can find for different projects. And that's just Bobby Anderson. I know I've got Robert Michael, but just search Bobby Anderson for that. Also, if you search IMDb for To the Bitter End or By the Grace of God or State of the Union even, you can find those projects there. And then you can also follow me on Instagram at Robert_M_Anderson, spelled Anderson, and I'm always posting updates about different things on there as well.
Excellent.
Yeah, and in my case, I have an IMDb Pro profile, but I'd rather be contacted via email. So it would be my name, Diana Maiocco at AOL.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Everyone, please have a safe and happy Sunday. Thank you both for being my guests today, coming back. It was great talking to you. And yeah, thank you again. And I look forward to talking to you guys again in the future, near future.
Yeah, and I hope
Yes,
we
absolutely.
inspired some independent filmmakers out there. Is that you
Absolutely.
don't need a mega budgets, and if you have a good phone with digital camera.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You're listening to Female Filmmakers Fuse with Alexa Polar and Robin Pabello, only on LA Talk Radio.